This story, according to Kipling, begins at a time when the rhinoceros had a smooth skin that fitted him snugly, and he had no manners. One day, a young man called Pestanji Bomanji left his cake by the water's edge, and the rhino ate it. A few days later, on a very hot afternoon, the rhino took off his skin to take a dip in the water. Pestanji saw his chance for revenge. He filled the rhino's skin with cake crumbs. When the rhino returned after his bath and put on his skin, the crumbs tickled and itched under his hide. He rolled on the sand. He rubbed himself against a tree. But the more he scratched, the worse it got, till he eventually rubbed himself so hard that he rubbed large folds into his skin. Unable to get rid of the itch, the rhino became perpetually angry. And since that day, the rhinoceros has great folds in its skin and a very bad temper. This is what Rudyard Kipling wrote in his book Just So Stories on how the rhinoceros got his skin and a bad temper. I loved the story as a child. As I read and reread it, the rhino became a mysterious creature in my fantasy, a bit fearsome but magical. So many years later, when I got an opportunity to film in India's famous rhino land, the Kaziranga National Park, my childhood memories come rushing back to me. And the first thought that comes to me is, do the rhinos really have a bad temper? The very first day of my stay in Kaziranga, I get a taste of a rhino's temperament. As we drive along one of the muddy roads through the thick grassland, we see a rhino a few meters ahead. The rhino hesitates for a while. She has a baby in tow. The mother gives the calf protective cover, allowing it to cross the road first as she keeps a close eye on us. The two of them slowly disappear in the grass, or so we think. But the mother rounds up around the back of a vehicle, and before we know it, charges at us. In no time, it ramps up to a frightening pace and chases after our vehicle, stopping only when our guard fires a blank. It is a close encounter, the first of many we faced during our stay in the park over 3 seasons. Set in the foothills of the eastern Himalayas, Kaziranga has an amazing variety of wildlife, nothing less than nature's paradise. Its lush grasslands are a gift from the mighty river Brahmaputra. The river continues to nurture and lavish rich silt deposits on these floodplains. Thriving in these grasslands are the three mammoth herbivores. The Asian elephant, the wild water buffalo, and the one-horned rhino. Among the many other endangered species which have found a safe haven in the region are the eastern swamp deer and India's only ape, the hoolock gibbon. Their emotive calls echo for miles along the hills. Heard more often than seen, only a few survive in the forests of the northeast, especially in Assam and Arunachal Pradesh. Swinging from tree to tree using their powerful long arms, they seldom put a foot on land. No surprise that they are called the acrobats of the jungle. There are only 3 families with not more than 4 members in each living in the hills surrounding Kaziranga. We are extremely lucky to spot them one morning around the Burra Pahar range of the park. There was a time when these hills and the grasslands were home to 2 other rhino species as well, the Sumatran and the Javan rhinos. The rhino populations were hunted extensively for sport. They were also killed as agricultural pests, pushing them to the brink of extinction. Today, only the Indian rhino survives. Even this species had almost disappeared from the region. Kaziranga was set up when only the last 10 to 20 of the Indian rhinos were left in the wild. That was in 1905. Since then, their numbers have greatly increased. Currently, the park houses over 2,500 greater one-horned rhinos. Nearly 70% of the world's entire population. The Indian rhino is the largest among the Asian rhino species. Recognized by a single black horn and skin folds which give it an armor-plated appearance, it weighs about 2 tons. Despite its weight and apparently lazy demeanor, it can clock speeds up to 30 miles an hour. I have not forgotten our close encounter with one of them on the very first day of our arrival, so I do not need any further evidence of this. Kaziranga has been a huge success story in terms of the conservation of Indian rhinos. This much is clear as I drive around the park. It is also home to a large number of other species of iconic wildlife, many of them on the World Wildlife Endangered Species list. But it is the rhinoceros who bosses these grasslands. For once, even the majestic tiger is forced to take a back seat, and the rhino takes center stage here. Our next close encounter with the rhino is a bit of a surprise. One fine morning, we come across a huge male grazing along the roadside. Wary of going too near him, our driver slows down and we wait at a safe distance. He seems to be in no hurry, walking very slowly, completely unconcerned by our presence. The forest guard with us, Gopal, tells us that he is Sam, the grand old man of the central range of the park. In his twilight years, Sam has weathered many battles and wears these scars on his body. His horn is chipped off, and he has lost one of his ears, perhaps bitten off by one of the bigger, younger males in a bid to chase him off his territory. Unlike their African cousins, the Indian rhinos do not use their horns in a fight. They have long, sharp, lower canine teeth which can grow up to 8 centimeters long. These can cause serious damage to their opponents, sometimes biting off large chunks of flesh. The rhinos are not blessed with a particularly good eyesight. Initial studies suggested that they have a vision range of only 20 meters. However, some recent studies have revised it to be about 200 meters. Better, but still not exactly brilliant. In order of size, the African elephant, Asian elephant, the white rhino, and the greater one-horned rhinos are the 4 biggest land mammals on Earth. All 4 have eyes that betray their body size. Their sharp senses of hearing and smell compensate for this deficiency. It is common to see rhinos walking with their nose to the ground. They are scent tracking other animals and humans. Many experts have suggested that in a lot of cases, the rhino's aggression towards humans arises out of its poor eyesight, a case of mistaken identity or confusion. Nothing much bothers Sam now, and he allows our vehicle to pass by without as much as a backward glance. As we drive past him, I can see that not all the rhinos are bad-tempered. Even though old, Sam is still massive and capable of inflicting damage if he chooses to. I ask around some of the more experienced guides at the park about the rhinos and their temper. I'm told the most aggressive and fearsome are the rhinos in Baghori, in the western range of the park. So I decide to pay a visit to the big boys of Baghori and check them out for myself. This part of the park is relatively undisturbed and tourists are not allowed beyond a certain point. I can immediately sense the difference as we drive towards one of the watchtowers called Bahubil. beels are small water bodies humming with activity, as most of the animals frequent them at least once a day. But before we can reach the watchtower, our path is blocked by a huge male rhino. Unlike Sam, he immediately takes up an aggressive posture on hearing our engine's sound. I can sense the tension of both our driver and the guide. For a few uneasy minutes, we are in a standoff. The rhino refuses to move out of our way, and we are forced to wait. Damburu, our driver, discusses the next move with Gopal, and in unison, both of them start banging on the side of our gypsy, making a loud noise to scare off the male. He remains unmoved. We brace ourselves for the worst. But just as we think he's going to charge at us, he changes his mind and starts to walk away. Damburu loses no time in driving out of the area. I'm relieved to see the watchtower ahead of us. These also double as base camps for the forest department, and I meet up a couple of guards who are on duty here. They are pretty amused at our encounter with the rhino. They tell me that they have a special name for him and a couple of other big boys. They call them MVI, short for Motor Vehicle Inspectors. No vehicle can pass this area without being given a once-over by the big boys. But why are the rhinos of this area more aggressive than the others? Unlike many other parts of the park, they are not exposed to tourist traffic. They see our vehicles as a threat and want to go after us. That makes sense. I visit another of these watchtowers nearby and meet the dominant male of the area, Mithun. Named after the handsome Bollywood star, he's a young, good-looking rhino in the prime of his life. The guards identify him by a small cleft in his lip. As we drive past him, he keeps a close eye on us from behind the tall grass, but makes no move towards our vehicle. About an hour later, as we are filming from the watchtower, he suddenly appears just below the camp. The guards are not surprised a bit. He visits them a couple of times each day to drink the salty wastewater flushed out of the camp. Mithun is truly a majestic animal, and he has the most amazing horn. A rhino horn is composed of keratin, a compacted mass of hair-like substance. Horns can reach up to 100 centimeters in length, but the average is around 25 centimeters. They weigh about a kilogram. The heaviest horn recovered from an Indian rhino was about 3 kilograms. Oriental culture has assigned magical properties to a rhino horn. Popular belief in its power to cure almost all human ailments has resulted in a large-scale hunting of the rhinos worldwide. Someone once described the rhino as a walking apothecary. Almost all parts of its body are used in Oriental medicine. But the horn is considered the most powerful. It is widely used as an aphrodisiac. The Indian rhinos and their horn are considered more potent than the African rhino. This has made it the most coveted animal on the planet, as well as the most persecuted. No wonder it almost went extinct. Even today, one of the biggest threats facing the rhinos here in Kaziranga is poaching. Flanked by the river Brahmaputra on one side and the Karbi Anglong Hills on the other, the park has porous boundaries, making it vulnerable to poachers. There is a thriving illegal market for these horns. Believed to be costlier than cocaine, the horn is estimated to fetch anything around $300,000 per kilogram. Despite proof from several scientific studies that the horn contains no medicinal value, all claims being based on myths, but perceptions are hard to change. In some parts of the world, the horn is even valued as an ornamental dagger handle. The rhino is a creature of habit and normally frequents the same area for foraging, sticking to a familiar path. It also uses the same spot for defecation, forming large dung heaps. Easy target for the poachers who wait at these predetermined routes to trap them. However, the young team of park rangers at Kaziranga is working round the clock to counter the challenge. A well-organized network of informants on the ground and digital eyes in the sky are helping them to foil any attempts by the poachers to infiltrate the park. Their efforts seem to be yielding positive results. The number of poaching incidents at Kaziranga has come down during the past few years. The rhinos seem to be thriving in these grasslands. Interestingly, the very success of conservation efforts at the park is creating new problems for the rhinos. The park has reached its maximum carrying capacity. There are more than 2,500 rhinos in an area of 900 square kilometers. There is fierce competition for food resources. Rhinos are primarily grazers. Their diet consists almost entirely of grasses, though they also eat leaves, fruit, and aquatic plants. only 3% of the park's area is covered with short, palatable grass. In many ways, Kaziranga is a melting pot of a large number of wild animals, and most of them are large herbivores. In addition to the rhinos, the park has more than 1,000 elephants and 2,500 wild water buffaloes. And don't forget that these are not the only munchers and grazers in the park. There are 18,000 wild boars, 35,000 hog deer, and about 1,000 eastern swamp deer as well. Things get particularly difficult during the dry season as the food supply decreases. Another cause for worry is the fact that almost 3/4 of the world's rhino population is concentrated in one geographic region, Kaziranga. They need new homes in order to minimize the risk from disease, which could wipe out the entire species. Having met some of the big boys of Bagori, I think I have seen the best of the dominant rhinos of Kaziranga. That is, till I am introduced to some of the female rhinos. It's early summer and the park is teeming with newborn rhino babies. I have seen some very small calves trotting alongside their mothers. They look absolutely adorable. But I am once again reminded that the mothers can be the most dangerous of the rhinos. One morning, we stopped to film a mother rhino with a few months old baby. It is baby Kazi and her mom, Nayanmoni. The two are grazing peacefully near a small stream. We keep a respectable distance when baby Kazi starts to run towards our vehicle. Naturally curious, she wants to investigate. Before we know it, the mother comes charging behind, ready to destroy anything and anyone who dares to come near her baby. We quickly start our vehicle and run for it. But the sound of the engine scares off baby Kazi and she starts to run in the opposite direction. Thankfully, Nayanmoni follows her. The guards are extremely wary of a female with a small calf. The mothers are fiercely protective and will not spare anyone she sees as a threat to her baby. Very often, many of the forest guards have been gravely injured and some have even lost their lives to a female rhino charge. Rhinos are by nature solitary animals. But it is common to find a group of subadults and adult males wallowing or grazing together, or even engaging in some rough and tumble play. The male and the female only come together for the purpose of reproducing. It is a long, tiring pursuit prior to mating, where the male must chase the female, often lasting many hours and kilometers. As we watch, this male rhino is trying to woo a female. But she is with a calf, which is still too young to survive in the wild on its own. So she resists all his advances. But the male's aggression has scared the baby, who runs away from the scene. The mother is now angry. She rebuffs the male in no uncertain terms. He seems to finally get the message and withdraws. The mother now starts calling out to her baby. Luckily, he has not wandered off too far, and the two are soon reunited. But when the male does find a willing partner and the mating begins, it may go on for as long as 90 minutes. Hence, the belief in the rhino's potency, which drives the poaching trade. Normally, a single calf is born after a gestation period of 15 to 16 months. The calves suckle for up to 4 years and remain by their mother's side during this time. The male plays no part in raising the baby, but the female is entirely devoted to her offspring. For the next 4 years, her life revolves around her baby. While other mammals like the elephants have the support of the entire herd in raising their young ones. A rhino is a single parent. She will not mate again till her calf is ready to lead an independent life. They truly are the super moms of the animal kingdom. I meet Nayan Moni and baby Kazi many times over the next couple of weeks. Like all babies, Kazi is a handful. Curious and prone to getting into scrapes. Nayan Moni is protective and alert. She makes sure that Kazi stays away from the thick grasses which can be full of danger. The park has a healthy number of tigers, more than 100. And while an adult rhino is not an easy prey, young calves are very vulnerable. On average, the tigers account for the deaths of 6 rhino calves each year. The first few months are especially crucial for a rhino calf. It depends entirely on its mother for survival. Dr. Panjit Basumatari, who runs a conservation and rehabilitation center in Kaziranga for orphaned rhinos and elephant calves, knows from experience how difficult it is to raise a baby rhino. I meet Bali Dubi, the 2.5-year-old rhino calf, at the center. He was found stuck in quicksand when barely a few days old. Hence his name, which literally means stuck in sand. The mother was not around, so the rescue team had no option but to bring him to the rehabilitation center. Rhino babies have a habit of defecating only at the same place as their mothers. They recognize their mother's smell. So when Bali Dubi came to the center, he did not defecate for many days. The rescue team was desperately worried. Things did not look good for the little calf. Anything could have happened during this period, and he had to be medicated to avoid bacterial infection. For the first few weeks, he was restless and often difficult to control. But the arrival of more orphan rhino calves at the center seemed to calm him down and solve his problems. Over the last few months, he has become extremely friendly and less aggressive. Being the eldest rhino baby at the center, he has taken charge of the rest of the calves. He is their undisputed leader. Very soon, it will be crunch time for Bali Dubi. Dr. Panjit and his team will try and get him ready for release into the wild. He will be old enough to defend himself in the wild against predators. Rhinos do not really have any territories, but they do stick to a home range. It will not be difficult for Bali Dubi to carve out a small area for himself. Having said that, sometimes the dominant male of an area can make life difficult for the other males. One hot afternoon, I come across Gabbar, the big male, wallowing in a stream. He has cornered the best place right under a shady tree. When another male gets into the water, Gabbar is in no mood to accommodate him. And charges at him angrily. The new entrant stops in his tracks, but looks pleadingly at him. It is a hot and muggy day after all. But there is no mercy from Gabbar, who snorts at him. The rhino has no option but to slink off into a faraway corner. Another example of their bad temper. There is, after all, plenty of room in the water for another rhino. Having shown him who is the boss, Gabbar can go back to his snooze. After some time, another male rhino appears on the scene. He has been watching the proceedings from the nearby grass field for some time. I can sense his hesitation. He comes halfway up to the pathway leading to the stream and then backs away. Gabbar has a fierce reputation in the area, and none of the other males want to get on his wrong side. As the day goes by and the temperatures soar, he can no longer bear it and decides to chance his luck. But he makes sure that he keeps a distance from where Gabbar is wallowing. Taking the long route, he enters the water on the other side, nearer the second male. The two settle down amicably in their corner while keeping an eye out for Gabbar. I meet Gabbar again on a couple of occasions. Named after an iconic Bollywood villain, Gabbar is living up to his name. He is one of the most aggressive and feared of the dominant males in the park. He does not allow any other adult males who might challenge his authority to settle in his area. So, I come back to my initial query as to the rhino's temper. Yes, it does seem they have a bit of a temper. But most of the time, their aggression is just a form of self-defense. This is particularly true of female rhinos with a baby in tow. In most other cases, it is the perception of threat which makes them charge at humans or other animals. The ones who are more used to company are generally calmer. But as Gabbar proves, sometimes a rhino can just be greedy, like any animal can. There is still so much more for me to learn about the rhinos and their behavior. But the monsoon rains are already lashing the park. Very soon, the grasslands will submerge under the rising water. All the wildlife will be forced to migrate to higher ground in the adjoining hills. For now, I must head home with the simple insight from my journey until I can return again. I wonder what Rudyard Kipling would have made of my encounter with the rhinos.